Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spiritually Fucked podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Mulholland. Let's get into the show. The death of my ovaries and the revival. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Why am I doing this episode? Well, actually, it's my podcast and I can do whatever the F I want. But the reason I'm speaking about this today is because I was recently on a podcast and this guy asked about my story. And I was like, oh my God, I completely kind of forgot about this part of my life. If you're in my circle and my friend, like I joke about it all the time, how I was in menopause at 22. And well, people think I'm literally joking, but I really am not. Like, that is what happened. And I've just had such a 180 healing and have a perfect cycle now on the dot, 29 days, and a beautiful relationship with my womb. And so I just forget this part of my life. But it's a big story, it's a big sector, and he mentioned or labeled it Dark Night of the Soul. And I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, more like dark nights of the soul, dark years of the soul. It was a really profound shift and part of my story and a very interesting soul contract, I must say. But good for jokes. I mean, who else is in menopause at 22? I mean, come on. Look at me now. I'm fucking glowing. If you're on YouTube, I look great. I look great right now. I mean, I'm glowing. My hair is like a little bit dirty, which I kind of like. I look a little feral right now. I'm just fresh from the gym and it looks great. And if you're not on YouTube, then you're missing out. But anyways, I've just been feeling good about myself, you guys. I don't know. The beginning of this year, I just am going full force into loving myself again, and I feel good. Is it reflecting? Will someone reflect that back to me? Anyways, I've been also on a podcast kick, and I don't prep for these things. I literally just plug my microphone in and fucking press record. So whatever comes up, comes up. And I hope you like it that way. I guess it really doesn't matter. It's just how I like it because it's my life. But I used to come with notes and shit. And now I just like press record and just let whatever comes through come through. But this one is about the death of my ovaries. And that's a dramatic title. And I could say the revival of my ovaries, but I don't know. There's something about death that I just love. Like foreplaying death in this life because our souls are eternal. How's that for you? On this morning or evening, whenever you're listening to this. What time do you listen to this? You should tell me. Anyways, okay, back to the epi. Back to the epi. The death of my ovaries. What is the journey? And did you really go through menopause, Taylor? Yes, I did. And we're just gonna start from the beginning. I was born, and no, we'll start when I first got my cycle, when I was 15. That's late, y'all. I think pretty sure in textbook you're supposed to get it when you're like 13 or something. So it was already late. It was already fucked, and I got it when I was 15, and I remember it was super late, and of course it wasn't regular. Of course. It was fucked up, and it came with acne and extremely long cycles and just bad, 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 bad. So what was the only solution at that time was to go on birth control. That's what the solution was. And was that the correct solution at the time? Well, that's all I knew. I was doing my best. And so the doctor told me to go on birth control. The guy in the white coat told me to go on birth control. So you know what I did? I went on birth control. And whoa, my skin got clear. My tits got huge, which is a big deal in high school when your boobs are bigger. But you know what else came with that? I was a psychotic bitch. And I already was pretty psychotic enough. And this just made it worse. I remember being a teenager and like throwing fucking tantrums, like throwing shit. And then I got fat. I got a big booty and big titties, but I got fat. I got big everywhere else. And I was a psycho bitch. And so, but my skin was clear and my cycle was quote unquote regular. And if you think about birth control, it's covering the symptoms your body's trying to tell you. Like, my body at the time was like screaming and shaking me, like, yo, bitch, address your womb. Like, let's connect with this. But, I'm fucking 15, 16, 17. No one wants to do that. No one wants to drink cacao and, like, I don't know, sacrifice feathers for their womb at that age. They just want to have a normal period and drink alcohol. And that's what I was doing. I wanted a normal period and drink alcohol and hook up with boys. Great for high school. Listen, people, another thing we were talking about on the other podcast I did was I could completely blame the vaccines I got when I was in middle school. I got the HPV ovarian bullshit fucking cancer poison shot. I got 3 rounds of that. I could have blamed that for all my problems. I could have blamed the birth control for these problems, but I want to make it clear, I was a match to receive these quote unquote problems or ailments because of the trauma I went through from not only this life, but fucking lineages. I am the lineage breaker. I fucking signed that into my contract. And so, of course, this life is going to be very, very intense. And so I could be a human and I'm going to blame the vaccine and I'm going to blame the birth control. But in reality, I was a match for that because I know a lot of people who were on birth control and were on and got that vaccine and they were fine. But because of me and my soul contract and my evolution in this life, I was a fucking match. And so it naturally manifested for my mom wanting for me to get the vaccine. It naturally manifested for me getting on birth control. That's how trauma works. And so I was carrying this quote unquote trauma and or experience because I have released the attachments of trauma and it's now just an experience in my life. It's a story in the many chapters in storybook of my life, or theta. I like to look at it as theater because I'm a theater kid. But that's what's up, people. Okay, I'm taking radical responsibility. And so I was, back to the story, I was on birth control, and then I was only on it for like 8 months, and then I got off of it. And I think it literally was just because I was like, I'm done. Like, I don't even know if I had a real reason. I just remember I was 17 or 18. I was a senior in high school, and I was like, I'm just gonna be done with it. And so I had my last period on birth control. And if you know anything about birth control, those aren't real periods. They're fake bleeds, they're pretend bleeds, and it is gosh darn poison, you guys. Like, get off that fucking shit. Listen, I do what you want in this life. But really, if I could say one thing, it's get off birth control. Okay, talk to your doctor, I guess, but or talk to God. Why don't you talk to God? Talk to God and see what he thinks. Anyways, I don't want you to feel bad if you are on birth control and you don't know any better, because I didn't know any better at the time, but now I know, and now I know to tell you to go look at other options. You can track your cycle, ladies. This is not that podcast, maybe a different one, but you can track your cycle. They have apps for that now. Or you just see what the fuck is coming out of your vagina every day, and you'll know. You'll know when you're ovulating. You'll know when your period's about to come. You'll know exactly everything once you build that connection. And that's the connection I have now, and that's why I'm sharing this story, to inspire you to go find that connection, because I came from the fucking pits of hell, y'all, like the trenches. I set up camp in the trenches. I was living there for quite a while. Dark night of the trenches, let's call it that. And so back to the story. This is 12th house Gemini. Just spewing shit coming out of my mouth, and it's all random. But that's why you're here. Back to the story. I had my last period at 18, and then I said no more birth control, and then my period never came again. And a few months go by, and I'm like, where is that thing? Then a few more months go by, and I'm like, Mom, I think I should see a doctor. And so she takes me to the doctor, and do you know what his prescribed was? Do you know what his solution was for me not having a period after birth control? He said, well, you can just go back on birth control. And I'm like, what the fuck is this medical system, you guys? My period is stopped because I went on birth control and now it's not coming back. And the only solution is to go back on birth control. Like, I'm 18. Like, I am ripe in my fertility. Like, can we talk about this? But that was his only solution. So I left and I said, okay, I'll just wait. And then a year goes by, 2 years go by. And I think I should see the doctor again. So we go back to the doctor and they said the only solution is to go on birth control. And then the other solution was to try the progesterone challenge. And that is when you take 10 days of progesterone, and if your body sparks a bleed, then it usually gets your body back in rhythm. So you're taking artificial progesterone, which before you're about to bleed, your body creates natural progesterone. And then it stops and then you bleed. And so what this artificial progesterone does is it kind of sparks your body to see, like, okay, can you bleed? Like, let's give it some progesterone. And I did that. You know how many times I did that? 4 times. Still, no period. I was getting fucking blood work, like all this shit. And so 5 years go by. You guys, I'm so not the best at math. And so a lot of this is kind of not accurate. And so if you're like, well, you said 5 years and then it's different when you say your age. Okay, I'm trying my best. Anyways, a few years go by. I said 8. I've been saying 8 years, but I don't really know what it is. Okay, humility. Okay, I'm not the smartest apple on the tree, but I'm there. So anyways, years go by. I've done this progesterone challenge 4 times. I'm getting blood work. No doctor has any fucking answers. I got every test on the fucking planet. And no one knew what the fuck was up. I was getting acupuncture. I was doing everything except addressing the internal shit. I was doing everything externally except addressing my body's actual body. Like, I just was like, I need answers from other people. I need answers from doctors. Diagnose me. I need a diagnosis. And all I wanted was a diagnosis. Because when something is so aloof in your body and quote unquote wrong and not working and you don't know what the fuck is up, you just want an answer. I'm like, please, do I have a pituitary problem? Like, is my pineal gland broken? Like, that's what people thought. It's a pituitary thing. I was going to energetic healers. Like, I was trying everything because I was looking for an answer. Anyways, fucking years go by, no period. I've tried everything at this point. And this is when, and I was in spiritual work, you guys. I was in polarity therapy. I was in cranial sacral. Like, I was doing all that shit. But it just was a coping mechanism, I guess, for me avoiding going deep dive into the trauma. And so those ailments and vehicles for healing are very, very, very potent. But when you're really in the trenches, they're not always going to work. Like, for example, tuning forks aren't going to fucking fix ovarian failure. Right now in my life, I use my tuning forks and they will fix me in moments that I need fixing because I have attuned my body to such a good place of coherence that something so subtle like tuning forks will reset me immediately. But at the time, I was just so low in the trenches. Like, my body was just operating at a 70-year-old's level when I'm supposed to be 29, like, or 22. And my soul... Can you imagine your soul, this young, ripe, fresh soul in this life living in a 70-year-old's body? Like, I fucking hated myself. I looked horrible. I felt horrible. And I had no answers. And I just was like, what the fuck is the point? I somehow signed an interesting soul contract where I don't really make a shift in my life unless I get severely injured in my body. And that is, for me, how I look at it, is because I prioritize my body the most in this life. It is your vehicle for your soul. you want to take good fucking care of it. And when you aren't taking care of your soul or your body, one of them is going to feel off. Either you're going to feel lost, or your soul is going to feel like shit, or your body is going to say, yo, bitch, wake the fuck up. And this was my wake the fuck up moment. And I believe I can still have those moments. This wasn't like a one and done, oh, I'm awake now from the dark night I slept and I'm awake now. No, this was just like a huge part of the turning story. And so I'm 22, and I don't know, you guys, I'm 20-ish, okay? Maybe I'm 23. I'm 20 something, 22, 23. I go to my first communications class that was part of my polarity therapy program in LA. And this was with my mentors who I've been working with for years now, 12 years. Big healers. They have schools all over the world. I guess that doesn't matter. Of course, I want to flex. They have schools in Switzerland, Japan, like LA. Like, these people are big, okay? And so I'm in LA and I'm taking this class. And it's supposed to be a life-changing class. And you know what happened to me? Is during my expression, we made these masks, and then we had a performance. And during my fucking performance in front of 20 people, I break my foot in front of everyone. I haven't thought about this moment in so long. I put on a Miley Cyrus song. It's so embarrassing, you guys. And I press play, and I'm wearing my mask, and about 2 minutes in, maybe a minute and a half, you hear my foot fucking snap. I danced, I took a step, and I broke my foot in front of 20 people. Like, after a step. That's how soft my bones were. At 22 years old, that should not be happening. This was a 70-year-old's body at this point. And you know what I did? I was so embarrassed, I walked it off. I said, I'm fine. Everyone like cringed because they heard the fucking snap, and I was like, oh, that's fine. I'm like getting cringy like thinking about this because it's still in my nervous system, I feel like. I walked it off, and an hour goes by and I'm sitting. And I remember at the end we did this like drum circle, and I'm sitting and I'm like fucking trying to drum this pain away, like, you know, trying to use my mind to override my body's feelings and symptoms. And at the end of it, I told this facilitator, I go, I can't walk. I go, something's really wrong. And everyone was like, what? And they were like, oh, that snap, that was something bad. And I was like, yeah, it's really bad. And so I got carried out of there. And the person I was staying with, who was the teacher of the class, was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you need to get me crutches. We had to go to like 3 CVS to find crutches. Like, who needs crutches last minute? This girl. And the next morning I woke up and I'm like, I can't walk on it. It's so bad. And so this was the first time. And I was in LA, you guys. I lived in Arizona at the time. Anyways, I finished the weekend. I show up in crutches the next day, and I'm with a bunch of healers. So, by the way, everyone's like, if I was to break my foot in any environment, this would be one. So everyone was like coming over and sending me loving energy. And I'm like, I need a little bit more than like some Reiki to heal whatever the fuck just happened. And so this was the first time I had to fly home in a wheelchair at 22. And I go to, immediately off the plane, I go get x-rays. And my foot is like not swollen at all. It looks perfect, to be honest. Like, I can't walk on it, but it looks really good. And one of the healers at the weekend I was at put all this Chinese medicine shit on it. You guys, it brought the inflammation down like so much. It looks like it wasn't broken. And so when I was getting x-rays, I got the x-rays, and then I was sitting there, I go, I'm just gonna try to walk on it. Like, I think it's fine. I think I just, you know, maybe snapped something, like not a bone, like a ligament. And the fucking x-ray lady heard me say this, she comes running out. She goes, I'm not supposed to tell you this because they're not, the nurses there are who take the x-rays aren't supposed to tell you. It's the doctors who have to relay the information. She goes, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but do not walk on your foot. You have 2 broken bones. And I'm like, what the fuck? Are you serious? She's like, yeah, like it's really bad. She couldn't show me because the doctor had to show me. Anyways, the next day I go, you guys, my bone was snapped in half. Like literally, there was nothing touching. It was a complete crack. That was my left metatarsal, the ring finger metatarsal, which is the water toe in polarity therapy on your left side, which is your feminine side, and then the one next to it to the left, my actual pinky toe was fractured. So I had 2 broken bones from taking a step. That's where my body was at the time. And again, if you look at the fucking like metaphysical symptoms, it's like your water toe on your feminine side. That's where you hold your emotions, your femininity. I mean, you can't make this fucking shit up. Or you can, and then you come down and you become a human and then you live the story. So that's what I was living through. So I was like, what the actual F is going on in my life? And how crazy is this? And so this was also a point in my life where I was so destined for answers about my cycle being missing. The doctor recommended, like, you need to go on birth control for 1 month to see if your body actually bleeds. And so this was a forced bleed because they thought that it literally, there's no blood there, like it couldn't bleed. And so I was so seeking answers. I did go on birth control for a month just to see if my body bled. I get home from the x-rays. You guys, I am bleeding so much. So not only is my foot broken in the metaphysical spots on my body where it's like the feminine emotions, like the most, I don't know, potent place to be broken, that is a reflection of like your femininity is broken. And also I bleed for the first time in like 5 years. Like, what the fuck? The mess I was in at that time, I was like, if this is not life screaming at me, then something's up. And I remember going to all my doctor's appointments, like getting x-rays and all the shit while I was like heavily bleeding. And I'm like, what is going on? Again, I just went on birth control for that one time to see if my body bled, and it bled. It bled, and also my foot broke. So I found out I had to get surgery, and they wanted to put screws in my feet. I was gonna say crystals. I'm like, crystals in my body. Maybe I do need some crystals down there. Like, can we put some some crystals while we're at it? They wanted to put screws in my foot, and I said no, I'm not doing that. That's feels disgusting to me. Like, ew. And so the other solution was to put a wire through my bone, and they were like, well, we don't recommend this because it's like what homeless people get and poor people get. And I'm like, that sounds just like me. Like, this is great. This is the perfect solution. And because the quicker solution would just get screws and then I move on with my life, and that's them again being like, okay, we'll fix you and then bye. I was like, no, I want the wire, and I want it. I don't want fucking screws in my foot for the rest of my life. And so I got the wire in. And so that involved surgery. And I had a wire sticking out of my foot for like 12 weeks. It was disgusting. God, the time of my life was so bad. And so I wasn't diagnosed with menopause yet, you guys. Let me just start with that. I'm still just a girl with a broken foot. I got the surgery, and the doctor, he was a good-looking doctor, by the way. He was married. Not that he would want to be in a relationship with someone who is 22 and in menopause, but it was high hopes for Taylor. So I go to the surgery the next few days. I go and I have a follow-up with him, and he walks in and he looks at me and goes, your bones are so soft for your age. You need to see a professional, like ASAP. Like, this is not okay. And I was like, what the hell? I go to a professional, quote unquote professional. They take lab results, they take blood work. They go, yeah, so your body is not producing any estrogen, any progesterone, any testosterone. Your levels are at a 70-year-old's and you have osteoporosis. Because I had to go get a DEXA scan. So that doctor also said, like, you need to get a DEXA scan ASAP. And I had osteoporosis at 22. My ovaries were kaput. They diagnosed me premature ovarian failure. And I was like, what's the point? My foot's broken. My ovaries are dead. My youth is taken away from me. And my frame, my bones are degrading. What the fuck is the point? And I just was like a mess. And there was no hope for me at that time. And I mean, just think about you at 22 when all you see is all your friends enjoying life, having fun, dating, going out, and you just feel like shit. And I looked like shit too. And everything made sense at that point because I had no energy. I was having hot flashes. I was having extreme migraines to the point where I was asking my mom to hand me ice packs every single night on the dot. I would have a fucking migraine in the back of my head, and I'm like, this is not right. But I finally had the answer I was looking for, and that answer was just not pretty. You know, with this, I can just say, oh, I was in menopause, like the diagnosis and whatever, but you have to remember, like, all the symptoms that come with menopause, I was experiencing at 22. And I didn't have an answer for that. And I was raised in a family where, granted, they were doing the best they could, but none of, I was, I was labeled a hypochondriac. You're just overreacting. You're not that tired. Oh, come on. Like you have a headache. You like, I can literally hear my family's voice in my head and me saying like, I'm sweating. I'm having a hot flash. And my mom being like, just go change your shirt. And I'm like, no, like something is wrong. Like I'm barely wearing clothes and it's winter and I'm literally having a hot flash. Like something is not right. And I was looked at as a hypochondriac. So my body was giving me these symptoms and then I was just shoving them down because they weren't valid. The loved ones around me weren't validating them, therefore I wasn't validating them. And I wasn't because I was ashamed. I was like, that's a kind of like, why do I have these problems? I'm just going to shove them down and act like they don't exist. And life came knocking on my door and broke my foot. And so this was a huge turning point for me. And I remember standing in line at CVS to pick up my bioidentical hormones, which I don't even think they were not even bioidentical at the time. They were just fucking hormones. So the reason I had to go on hormones was because 4 weeks go by and I'm getting x-rays and my doctor, my sexy doctor was like, your bones are supposed to be healed 75% and they are healed 25%. He goes, something's got to change. And so I went to my doctor and they were like, the only solution is to go on hormones. And I said, okay, I have to do this because my bones aren't forming. Like I couldn't take a bunch of like ginseng or like marshmallow root to heal my bones. Like I needed Western medicine. And this is why I have no, I mean, I see where Western medicine comes in and can save you, but it's just not long term. And I don't want to get into that, but just know that I have both sides. Okay. And I've experienced both sides and I've just found my way through it. And so I'm standing in line at CVS waiting for my 6 prescriptions that I'm now going to have to start taking. At the time, I thought it was for the rest of my life. And I just was crying to my mom. I'm like, you guys have no idea how hard this is for me. You've been telling me this whole time that I'm a hypochondriac and look where I'm at. I have a broken foot, I'm in menopause, and I have osteoporosis, and my body is just dwindling away. It's degrading. And I've been told that was a hypochondriac and I was making this up. And it was so fucking real in that moment. And I do believe you can make things up, but I wasn't making it up. I was just expressing my body's emotions and feelings and symptoms and then being told they were wrong. And that had a lot of work. That was wired in my brain. And I probably still have lingering effects of that. And I'm still working through that. But that was the reality at the time. And again, unconditional love and compassion for everyone who was a part of that journey at that time. And I see the medicine and all of that, but it was really fucking hard, you guys. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was really hard. And so I start taking this medicine, quote unquote medicine. I start taking these drugs, and lo and behold, my bones start healing. But I start getting fat. I start getting crazy again. I was on estrogen, progesterone, spironolactone, and 2 thyroid medications. I think there was another one in there. But, you know, I was reliant on these external things to heal my bones at the time. And so I had a very, very long healing process for my foot. It was much longer than normal, but it healed. And at the end of it, I was fat, sick, and nearly dead. Like, I looked so bad. I was 160 pounds. That's about 30 pounds more than I am right now. I typically am very comfortable at a 120, 130 weight, and I was 160. I had cellulite all over my body, on my stomach, on my arms, on the front of my legs. Like, my face looked like a fucking moon. It was so big, and I just was so unhappy. I had cystic acne on my face, acne all over my chest, and all over my back. I was just covered. And I was 23. And I was just like, this is bad. This is not a good life. And then, yeah, so I was on all these drugs, and I said, then I got the calling. I go, I want to drink ayahuasca. I got the fucking calling, and then I just set it out there, and then I know you can't be on all these things for when you can't take ayahuasca when you're on all these things. So I just set the intention out there, like maybe in a year, I don't know. And then, of course, lo and behold, this person comes into my life who was in yoga teacher training, and she was becoming a yoga teacher to teach at ayahuasca retreats. And I said, this is so weird. I just said I want to do ayahuasca, and then I meet this girl. A year goes by, and I'm sitting with ayahuasca. So that's how that happened. And that was a calling. And so I meet this girl, and then at the same time, I meet my spirit doctor, who I still work with to this day. And I came to him with all these ailments, all these hormones, and he goes, it's not going to be a quick overnight process. It's going to take time and commitment. And I said, I'm fucking in for it. Let's do it. And I spent that year just learning what was best for me, and what was best for me was to wean off the medicines, the drugs. Let me talk about that. They were not medicines, they were drugs. And so I weaned off the drugs, and I eventually went to sit with ayahuasca. So it took about a year, because you have to like wean off them, and then you have to replace them. And I go sit in ayahuasca, and that was like chips of the iceberg. Like, it was a big iceberg, but it started to chip away. And I got my cycle back. I started cycling on my own again. I was still fat. I was still really big and unhappy with myself, but it was the beginning. And that was the end of 2020. And the beginning of 2021, I said, I want to be a model again, because I was a model. And then, I've been a model my whole life because I'm a freak. Like, I love theater. I love being in the spotlight. Like, that's just who I am. I've been doing it since I was like 8 years old, you guys. Like, this is just something, I'm just living out my dharma. Well, I'm just living out who I am as a little girl. And so I was a model, and then I broke my foot and then became fat, and so I couldn't model again. That was the truth. And I hated myself. Like, it was never about the weight, but the weight was a reflection of everything I was carrying around. And everything I was carrying around were the identities and beliefs that I wasn't good enough, that I hated myself. I was just carrying around trauma, and it was manifested as fat. And so that's what I mean when I say I was fat, okay? It was just a word that I use. I mean, granted, I was on like a scale wise, but it also was, I was just fat of trauma and like full of carrying around shit that wasn't serving me. Who wants to take pictures? I don't have any pictures or videos back then because I deleted them all, and I was so ashamed of myself. And so 2021 comes by, and I said, I want to be a model again. And so I, booked a photo shoot, and, was like starving myself. Like, I want to be skinny. And anyways, I showed up to the photo shoot, and I took the fucking photos. And that was a big stepping point because I was being seen again. And if you look at my Instagram, there's a big break from, I think, 2019 to when I posted again in 2021. If you know me now, I post every fucking day, multiple times a day. I didn't post for 3 years. That is not me. That is not my soul. That is not my soul not posting. That is me being ashamed. I held back for all those years because I was so ashamed and sick of myself. And that's just not who I am. I love sharing. That's why I come here. I have a podcast, a YouTube, a book, a fucking website, an Instagram, a TikTok. Like, I love to share. And if you look back at that life for 3 years, I didn't post one time. That just shows how ashamed I was of myself and how in the trenches I was. There's no service in the trenches. I turned off the service. So 2021 was like, I'm stepping up for myself again. And it was a good year. That was an amazing year because I started modeling again. I was traveling a ton. Opportunities were falling into my lap because I was signing up for Taylor's good life again. And I took radical responsibility for my healing. I went and I sat with ayahuasca, and ayahuasca helped me strip the layers of things that were no longer serving me. And I started writing. Ayahuasca unlocked something in me. And maybe it was the things that I let go, or just the devotion I spent on myself. Because when you go and you sit for a week, you're putting your money towards it. You're putting your time, your energy, and you're putting in the fucking work. It's not easy. I had many deaths during that week. And I just feel like mentioning this. This was the same time my dad passed away in the beginning of 2021. And I feel maybe my life got a little bit better because he was on the other side and he could help me then. Because he couldn't help me in this life at the last few stages of before his graduation, before his death, because he chose the life of an alcoholic. And again, radical unconditional love for him and his journey and the devotion he gave up in this life for my learning lessons in this life. And so as much as I would have loved a daddy at this time to fall into, I didn't have that. And I see the strength it built in me. And now that he is graduated and on the other side, he can help me much more. And I felt maybe that's why my life started to shift this year, because he wasn't in his pain body and he was assisting me on the other side. And that's why I deeply work with my ancestors, because I do believe they are facilitating us in this life, and we do things and we heal our bodies for them. We are just an extension of them. And I am this body right now, but they are in me. That's how the sacred thread works. In my eyes, okay? This is all my eyes. I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but that's how I view it. And so 2021 was fucking lit. And then at the end of 2021, my family was like, let's move. And I'm like, what? You guys, life just started getting good again. I'm dog sitting a ton. I'm working at the best place on earth. This was the juice bar I was working at. I have friends. You're telling me to leave? Are you kidding, you guys? And then I said, in my stubborn ways, I just sat with it. And I said, you know what? let's fucking go. And then I was the one who became the shapeshifter in the move. My brothers were like, wait, you want to move now? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. I found the apartments. I found like everything. I'm like, let's do it. And then 2022 comes. Oh, this was such an amazing year. 2022 comes and I said, okay, bye Arizona. You know, the juice bar I was working at for 9 years shut down. That was a part of my life. I was going to give up dog sitting, the 11 years I was dog sitting for, or maybe it was like 8 or 9 at the time. I said, bye clients. Peace, love. Taylor's leaving. And I just said, it's time for a new life. And I was still overweight from what I prefer. I still was holding on. And when I look at these pictures, I was holding on to, again, like identities that were no longer serving me. And so when I moved and I gave up everything in April of 2022, I lost 10 pounds. Isn't that funny how that works? It's so weird. And so I gave up my Arizona life. I literally had to physically give up a lot of things, like storage of just things I was holding on. I had to give up my identity of Arizona life, and I moved to Boulder, Colorado, which I am here right now in the same house we moved in, or it's an apartment. 3rd story. My cat has jumped off 3 times the 3rd story. I just felt really called to share that. So my cat even tried to kill itself 3 times. Anyways, so we move. I let go of everything. And it's April. And I say, I'm a Colorado girl now. But then I went back to Arizona for a month because I had Coachella. That was the last Coachella I think I will ever go to. Because it's run by demons now. Reptilians. It wasn't a great lineup. And I went to Coachella and I was tying up some things in Arizona. And then I came back May 30th, 2022. And I said, I'm a Boulder girl now. I got a job on Pearl Street. And, this is a big part of the story. At the same time of this letting go, I found Joe Dispenza and Anami. That 2 combo radically changed my life. And you know why? Because they reminded me who the fuck I was. And they showed me that you can heal with nothing but yourself. And I wasn't subscribing to, more vitamins or more medicine. I was subscribing to my mind. And with those 2 combo together, I'll tell you what I did, but it shifted my life. And so I let everything go. I lived in Boulder. I'm laying in the sun every day. I have a job that I like. I have a routine, and I'm meditating every day, and I'm working with my womb. I did Joe Dispenza's first retreat online. It's the progressive retreat. It's like $300 because I knew at the time, I'm like, I want to go to a week-long event. And so I was preparing myself for that. And so I bought the $300 thing and I did the whole course. And he reminded me that I can make my life mystical. And I remember every day I would set the intention. I want to make today mystical, and I would meditate every single day. I did the 2 meditations I had from him every single day for years, and they dramatically changed my life because I was just sitting with myself and connecting to the unknown, connecting to my higher self, whatever you want to call it. And that radically changed my life. And then I did Anami's Well Fucked Woman course, and again, that was just a calling. I just was like, I don't know why I'm spending this money to sign up for this course, but I want to be well fucked, whatever the fuck that means. And it was just a course on rewilding the relationship with your womb and, reminding yourself you have a fucking vagina. And I bought a yoni egg and I was doing work with my vagina again and really softening into that and finding the sacredness that was lost or waiting to be found. Because I went through so much quote unquote trauma. I was in the trenches. And so I did her program. And by the end of September, I booked a photo shoot in October, and this was the turning point. I mean, I was in fucking love with myself. My body looked incredible. You could just see it in my eyes. I was just in love with life again. Joe Dispenza taught me how to be in love with life again. Kim and Anami taught me how to be in love with myself again because I wasn't rejecting my fucking sacred portal in between my legs. That shit's sacred, you guys. It's a gosh darn portal. There's so much magic down there, and it's to shame that, it's just societal. And I know it's not just me in this life who I'm doing it for. I mean, it's ancestral. I remember October 2022, I was just on fuego. I was in love with life. I looked amazing. I felt amazing. And shit was just falling in my lap because my lap was the one attracting it. Because I was connected to that sacred portal. And my cycle was normal. And that was the turning point for me. I mean, I had many turning points, but this was like the I'm working again as my soul feels, right? Like my body and my soul were finally lined up with each other. And it was when I started doing the internal work. And I want to round this episode out by saying it's always an ongoing process. I still, granted, I do feel pretty perfect right now, but that's because I'm choosing to feel perfect. And I feel perfect in what is coming up in my body. I'm perfect in my standards. And I know that there's still a lot more perfectness to reach. But from where I was, I look back and I really don't celebrate myself enough. And that's one of my intentions for this year, is to celebrate myself more, because I did go through a 180. And luckily I have a very nice friend who always reminds me, because she always sends me photos of my old self. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have any photos of my old self. So I can't see the difference, because when you're at that fucking rock bottom, you never want to document it, because you never think you're going to go up from there. Like, you just think you're stuck there. And I really admire myself now that I do document a lot of my life, because I look back and say, oh, that's where I was. I love that girl because she was just doing her best. And that is the message I want to leave you with. If you are in the trenches and the dark night of the soul, just know you can go up from here, baby. And you're just doing your best. You just got to do your best and have compassion and humility, and know that you can fucking overcome everything and anything that you put your heart and mind to. And God, your soul, your higher self would never sign up for a miserable life. And if you are miserable right now, I want to let you know that it's all temporary, and you get to decide when you're going to stop being miserable. It's all a choice. This entire life is a choice. And how you show up is a gosh darn choice. So how are you choosing to show up? And if it's not great, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's always better. And to extract the meaning out of everything and fucking run with it. And even if that's not now, even if you're in the pits of hell and you're like, I don't know what the meaning of this is, that's okay too. Just experience and feel it for what it is. You'll find out the meaning later. But this is my story, and I really hope it inspires you. And so, if you are lost, just remember, the only thing to find is your sovereignty, whatever that means to you. Okay? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I really hope it inspires you to never take no for an answer, and to ask many fucking questions, and to always go back to yourself and know that you can heal your body with meditation and dedication, devotion, loyalty. It's all you. It's all you, baby. You don't need anyone else in this life. You may need a guide. You know, Joe Dispenza was a guide for me. Kim Anami was a guide for me. Maybe I'm your guide. You will find your guides when you set the intention of meeting yourself. When you choose to meet yourself, those who will teach you along the way will show up in your path. And I say this all the time. We're all here to walk each other home. And I think I might have to shift it to we are all here to find each other home. And that home is within ourselves. And really, there is no finding. It's just releasing and stripping the layers of who you think you have to be. Who you know you're not. But for some reason your mind thinks you are. And those are just false narratives and things we are held on to in our inner nervous system because that's how we were wired. And that's where Joe Dispenza teaches you how to rewire to live your best self. And sometimes it does feel like you're making it up. At this point, I've realized maybe I am making it up. And that's great. I was in the best fucking mood yesterday. And I said, am I just making this up? And then I was like, wait, but that's the point. Even if I am making this up, as long as you're not avoiding anything or bypassing anything, you kind of just have to make it up until you get through it. Or until it's time to uncover the next level. Uncover the next layer. To be released. Okay? Again, if this resonated with you, why don't you let me know? And please write me a review. I never ask for that. I'm going to start asking for that because I'm speaking my voice. And I have like 2 reviews on podcasts right now, and one of them is me. So if this resonates with you, please write me a review so other people can find this story and maybe it will resonate for them. When you share, it helps other people find me. And if this has helped you, maybe it will help someone else. Okay? I adore you. Thank you so much for being here. And just know your truth. Whatever the fuck that means. I said that in my last podcast, and I don't know what that means yet. But maybe it's not supposed to mean anything, and maybe you're supposed to make meaning out of it. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a great day. Love yourself, love your ancestors. I don't know, I never want to end this, but I'm gonna end it now. Okay. Bye.